Hey everyone, it's Lala. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel and welcome if you're new here. Today I'm going to show you how to crochet this gorgeous diamond granny square. It's based on the classic granny square but with a little bit of a twist. Very simple, very beginner friendly. I also made a tutorial showing how to make a cute summer top from those granny squares, so if you're interested in that, go see the video. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Lala. I'm a crochet designer. I make wearables, amigurumi, and anything crochet related. Please subscribe to my channel so I can upload more tutorials for you guys. Let's start crocheting! Start with the color that you want the diamond to be in and work a magic ring. If you want, you can chain 2 and this will count as the first double crochet, but I don't like this option, so I'll show you how to do a stacked single crochet. You're going to insert your hook inside the ring, yarn over into the loop, yarn over into the 2 loops, and now we have a single crochet. You're going to insert your hook into that left loop right here. The left loop of the single crochet, yarn over into this loop. And when you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over into both of them. And this is our first double crochet. We're going to work 2 more double crochets into the ring. 1 and 2. Yarn over into the ring, yarn over into the ring, yarn over into 2 loops, yarn over into the left 2 loops. This is one cluster, and this is what we call a granny stitch, a cluster of 3 double crochets. When we've completed 1 granny stitch, we're going to work 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Then make another granny stitch inside the ring. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3 double crochets. And again, chain 2. Do that 2 more times. 3 double crochets followed by 2 chains. And chain 2. This is a good time to close our magic ring, so pull this tail right here. And you're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet we did, which is a fake double crochet, but still you can see the loops on top of it. So insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, and grab the left loop into the right one. Now we want to start working on the corner, and we'll do that by working our way in slip stitches into the corner. So move to the next double crochet here and work a slip stitch again. Do the same to the next double crochet of the cluster. And now insert your hook into the chain space here. Into the chain space, yarn over, into the chain space again, and when you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over into both of them. This will allow us to work the stacked single crochet. So insert your hook into the left loop of the single crochet, yarn over into the loop, yarn over into the 2. If you're worrying about not recognizing this first stacked single crochet, so use a stitch marker. Then you're going to work 2 more double crochets into that same chain space. So yarn over, into the chain space, yarn over, back again. When you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over into the left 2, and yarn over into the remaining 2 loops. Do that again, double crochet into the chain space, and chain 2. Then you're going to work another granny stitch into that same chain space. So yarn over, into the loop, yarn over, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3. And this is our first corner. Let's move on to the next corner and work the exact same thing. 2 granny stitches divided by 2 chains. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets. We have 1 granny stitch, chain 2. Let's work another granny stitch into that same chain space. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets, and there we have our second corner. Let's move on to make the third corner. 1 granny stitch, chain 2, and work another granny stitch into that same chain space. We have our 3 corners, 1 last corner. Let's move over to the next chain space and work a granny stitch. Don't forget to chain 2. It's very important to define our corners, and work another granny stitch into the same chain space. Next, you're going to take out the stitch marker if you used one. You're simply going to slip stitch into that first fake double crochet we did in the beginning. Now pay close attention, please, because we're going to change color. So work another slip stitch into the next double crochet. Insert your hook into the next double crochet, but don't finish it. Just insert the hook, place it on the table for a second, grab your second color. I'm using this beautiful baby pink. Wrap it around your finger, place it on the hook, hold tight to your work, and insert the new loop, the new color loop, into the 2 loops. Next, you're going to insert your hook into the next chain space. Make sure that the tail is behind your hook. Yarn over into the chain space, yarn over, and work a single crochet. Let's proceed to make another fake double crochet. So insert your hook into the left loop, yarn over into the loop, yarn over into the 2 loops. And now we can continue working a regular granny stitch. So 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets, and since we are in a corner, we're going to chain 2. Let's work another granny stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Now we want to change colors back to this red to form the diamond. So what we're going to do is pull up a loop a little bit, insert your hook into those 2 loops right here, and pull firmly the color B yarn. So you have only these 2 loops on your hook. Grab the color A yarn and yarn over into the 2 loops. Now we're going to work a granny stitch between those 2 granny stitches here. We don't have chain 2 here, but we will work a granny stitch between them. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and another one. Now we're gonna change color again to make the corner. So again, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the 2 loops here, pull the yarn, and exchange between the colors. Yarn over into the 2 loops. Yarn over, work a granny stitch into the corner, chain 2 because we're in a corner again, and we're going to repeat what we just did. I'm going to work a granny stitch, change color. What you can also do instead of pulling up a loop and inserting your hook is just not finishing the last double crochet of the granny stitch. You're going to yarn over into the 2 loops, and then when you have 2 loops on your hook, you're simply going to drop the active yarn and replace it with the other color. Yarn over into the 2 loops. Depends on my mood, but I usually use this one, but I also use the previous one. Now again, we're going to work a granny stitch between those granny stitches. Yarn over into the space here, 2 double crochets, and change color in the 3rd one. Drop the yarn, take back the 2nd color, yarn over. We're going to repeat that 2 more times until we get to the beginning of the round. Chain 2, another granny stitch inside the chain space, change color in that last double crochet, and work a red granny stitch between those granny stitches. 1, 2, and change color in the 3rd double crochet. Let's work our last corner. Granny stitch, chain 2. Let's work another granny stitch into that same chain space. 1, 2, and change color on that last double crochet. Drop the pink yarn, and close it with the red yarn. Next, last granny stitch between those granny stitches here. Insert your hook into this chain space, work 3 double crochets, and change color in that last one. Next, slip stitch into the first stacked single crochet we did in the beginning. And again, we want to get to the corner, so we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 double crochets of the granny stitch. And this was round 3. Now is the time to cut off the first color yarn because we're not gonna need it anymore. Next, you're going to insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over into the loop, and work a single crochet in order to work a stacked single crochet, which will count as our first double crochet. 2 more double crochets into the chain space, chain 2, another granny stitch into that same chain space, from now on we're not changing colors, we're simply working a granny stitch into each of those spaces between the granny stitches of the previous round. So our first granny stitch will be between those two. Yarn over into the space here and 3 double crochets. You're going to skip the 3 stitches right here and work another granny stitch between those granny stitches into this space here. Yarn over into the space and work 2 more granny stitches. Now we got to our second corner, so again we're going to work the same here, a granny stitch, chain 2, and another granny stitch into that same chain space. So 1 granny stitch, chain 2, and work another granny stitch into the same chain space. 2 and 3. When we're done with the corner, we're going to work 2 granny stitches into these 2 spaces here. So 1 granny stitch, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, skip these 3 stitches and work the granny stitch into this space here. Another corner, again 1 granny stitch, 2 chains, and then another granny stitch, 2 and 3, chain 2, and another granny stitch into that same chain space. We're going to repeat what we did on this side. 1 granny stitch in each of the next spaces. 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. Go into that next chain space and work another granny stitch. What is it, baby? What? Another corner, our last corner. Let's work 1 granny stitch, chain 2, and another granny stitch into that chain space. 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. 1 granny stitch is done, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that chain space. I hope it's clear by now, but I'm pointing it out anyway. Next, work a granny stitch in each of the next spaces between the granny stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Skip the next 3 stitches and work a granny stitch into the next chain space. 2 and 3. To join the round, we're going to locate that first stacked single crochet we did to fake the double crochet. We're going to insert our hook into it, work a slip stitch, and then work 2 more slip stitches into the next 2 double crochets, this one and this one, to make our way into the corner. And then we can work a single crochet, go into that single crochet and make another single crochet, and this is our first double crochet. 2 more double crochets. Then we're going to chain 2, and again work another granny stitch into that same chain space. Let's ignore this fairy monster here and continue working granny stitches into the next 3 spaces we have here. This, and this one. So the first granny stitch, Insert your hook into the next space and work another granny stitch. Move to the next space and work another granny stitch. Move over to the chain space of the corner, work a granny stitch, chain 2, and work another granny stitch into the same space. Let's repeat that one more time. Go into the next space here between the granny stitches and work a granny stitch. Three double crochets. Move over to the next space and work another granny stitch. And the last one, move over to the space between the next granny stitches and work another granny stitch. Let's work our third corner. Again, granny stitch, chain 2, and work another granny stitch into the same space. Insert your hook into the next space here between the two granny stitches and work a granny stitch. Move to the next space and work another granny stitch. And one more granny stitch between those granny stitches before we move over to our last corner. Let's work our last corner, granny stitch, chain 2 and another granny stitch. And our last side of the granny square, let's work 3 more granny stitches between the spaces. So first granny stitch, second granny stitch into that space here, and the last granny stitch for this square. This is our granny square. Now we're going to close it. So insert your hook into the first double crochet of the round, or stacked single crochet, and work a slip stitch. Chain 1 to secure. Grab your scissors. Pull your hook away. Tighten it up. And I don't know what you're going to do with your square, but you can either cut off the tails from the magic ring, etc. I'm going to cut off all of those tails and weave in only this tail right here. Just insert the needle anywhere in the same color, of course, to a few different directions. This will make it the most secure. And that's it, our granny square is done. I really hope you liked the tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I'll see you next video. Bye!